Good morning. Welcome to a Sunday, January 19th. We're looking at 5:52 in the morning here in western Iowa where it's 4 below zero. We'll show you that here in just a second. We're talking big snows from, say, Washington, D.C., all the way through the big cities of the Northeast. And then we're talking about our southern snow and ice. And the details are coming more into focus, but there's still a little disagreement between the models. We'll show you both. In fact, we'll start with that. So here's your snow depth right now across the country, still hanging on to that snow. Kansas, Missouri, through the Ohio Valley, and tons of snow off the Great Lakes. It's just been cranking, and it's going to crank some more. And we still have a lot of snow on the ground, of course, in the Rockies, Intermountain West, and the higher elevations especially. So here's the total snow we're expecting. This is not the snow depth. This is the snow we're expecting from now until, what did I put, midnight Wednesday night. So this is according to the GFS, and so there you see your swath of really good snows from West Virginia into Northern Virginia, D.C., through the big cities of the Northeast and off the Great Lakes as well, especially the eastern Great Lakes. And then we see our southern snowstorm, which, this is crazy, it has about 6 inches of snow for Houston. Not wild, even like 4 for New Orleans, but the lesser amounts as you head over to, say, South Carolina. Now, the European has a slightly different solution for the South. A little bit more coverage of snow, and still quite a bit. I mean, up to 6 inches of snow for Houston and into parts of Louisiana, but more snow on this for southern Mississippi, southern Alabama, southern Georgia, northern Florida, into South Carolina. I can't even believe I'm saying these words, but I'm going to keep saying it. Now, the solutions are quite different on each model. The GFS hardly has any ice. A little bit for Texas, a little bit for South Carolina, a little bit for the panhandle of Florida. This would not cause major problems. Maybe some glazing on the roads, which is not nice, but no power outages or anything. But you go to the European, and it's quite a bit more ice for Texas, Corpus Christi, and up to near maybe to Galveston and inland, so getting close to San Antonio, and then northern Florida, Jacksonville, pretty close here. You know, we're talking quarter inch or more of ice, and that is going to start possibly causing some power outages, tree limbs down, that sort of thing. So we'll watch it and see. It's going to be, this is ish, you know, we're going to have a southern snowstorm and ice storm, and it's pretty dramatic, and it doesn't happen that often this far south. It does happen, but not that often. Meanwhile, here in Harlan, Iowa, we have a cold weather advisory. Now, this used to be known as a wind chill advisory. The National Weather Service has changed that. They've gone to now cold weather advisory. So that's what we have all the way through Tuesday morning. Current temperature at 5:15, -4. Northwest winds at 22, feels like -28. Now, for those of you going, oh my gosh, a high of 7, wind chills below zero all day. You can't go out in that. And so I lived in Phoenix for a year. I lived in Tucson for 15 years. And so when it's 111 outside, which it was, you just have to survive from your car to the building, is what I found out. And so it's kind of the same here. So like when I get to church this morning, I park far away because I get there early to set up and all that stuff. And I want everyone else to be able to park closer. So all I have to do is get from the far end of the parking lot into the building without dying. This is going to be fine. Now, another reason why I wanted to show this cold weather advisory, because for some reason it's not on our hazards map. So those cold weather advisories are all across the plains. So, and then the other hazards we have, our first snowstorm from, say, the Virginias, Kentucky, up through the Northeast. So Kentucky with winter storm winter storm warnings for parts of Kentucky into West Virginia and all the way up through the big cities of the Northeast. But even outside of that, expanding even further out, we got winter weather advisories. That's the first storm. And then the southern storm, we have lots of winter storm watches from Texas all the way to Georgia, and freeze warnings too for southern Texas all the way to, back into Florida and Georgia. So it's just nuts. This cold air is the real deal. And then the winds are back in Southern California, not good. And then up there in Montana, don't forget Montana, winter weather advisories in parts of Kansas too. Current temperatures, well, the cold air's here. As I showed you, -4 in western Iowa, those negative numbers pressing through Iowa, parts of Nebraska, and into the eastern slopes of the Colorado Rockies. Single digits, Texas Panhandle. It's 13 in Lubbock. Shout out to my friends in Lubbock. It's like mid-20s right now in Dallas, and still waiting for the colder air for the southeast, but it's coming. And our temperature change, you think that's dramatic? I mean, that Arctic air has just poured into the center of the country, and it's much colder than it was this time yesterday. And it was cold here yesterday morning. I mean, it was single digits, but now it's single digits below zero. So, yeah. Surface for today. Here's our storm from Kentucky all the way up to Maine, and then we have showers and even thunderstorms down in Florida. Now, some of these storms in Florida could be severe, marginal risk, and even a tornado or two not out of the question. So if you're in central Florida, keep an eye out for that. A little bit of light snow up there in the Rockies. Surface for tomorrow, our northeast storm exits, and then the cold air blows across the lakes. So heavy lake effect snow, especially for the eastern Great Lakes. And then we start to see our storm forming in Texas with ice and even heavy snow for Houston into Nacogdoches and starting to get into Louisiana. So your 48-hour precipitation. There's your heavy rain for parts of Florida. Inch and a half perhaps northern Florida into southern Georgia, and even some rains for the mid-Atlantic and South Texas, but otherwise it's snow on this map. So again, from Kentucky, so Bowling Green, you might get a couple 3 inches. Eastern Kentucky, you're getting up to 4, 5, 6. And then you get into Virginia or West Virginia and Northern Virginia, and you're looking more like up to 8. And that would be the same for New Jersey, getting towards Philadelphia, for New York City, up Massachusetts, Connecticut, into Maine, a good half foot of snow or more. And then off of Lake Erie, even more. Okay, your surface for Tuesday. This is the main event for the south, ice and heavy snow from Texas all the way up into North Carolina. Wow. All right, GFS this morning. GFS has a better handle on the cold air, I think, so that's why I'm going with that. Starting this morning, you see the cold air is all the way through most of the country, heading into the southeast. Ahead of that is where we see our showers and storms, some possibly severe. A little bit of light snow going on for you, Kentucky, moving into the Virginias. As this low strengthens, the snow picks up. Washington, D.C. with a heavy dump by this evening, moving into Philadelphia, into New Jersey, New York State, between Albany and New York City. New York City, heavy snow. Connecticut, Rhode Island, Massachusetts, Boston's going to get a nice dump of snow, and then all the way up into Maine. That storm exits. Cold air, Arctic air blowing across the Great Lakes. The snow jets get turned back on. This gets us to 6 a.m. tomorrow morning. And then we start to see, watching South Texas, rain, a little bit of ice, a little bit of snow. As we get into, this is early Tuesday morning. This is 6 a.m. Tuesday morning. So maybe some ice down here around Corpus Christi up to Galveston. Some heavy snow starting to develop near Houston. Light snow getting into Louisiana. And then we see that thing trek across the south right along the Gulf Coast. This is Tuesday afternoon, evening. This is Tuesday night. This is Tuesday late night. This is midnight. And then we get into early Wednesday morning. Look at that ice around Jacksonville. And then it exits. It's kind of crazy, isn't it? And then things quiet down. We still have some lake effect snow. I don't know if this Arctic air is going to freeze the Great Lakes, and we'll turn off those lake effects if that happens. It's been a few years since that happened. And then it's just things quiet down, but the cold air is still in place, especially in the southeast. Starting to warm up a little bit now in the southern plains. A little bit of light snow up here in North Dakota. This gets us into Friday. And as we go, a little bit of, oh, there we go. That was the last frame. So a tiny bit of warm up here for the south and the southeast. So if you get 4 to 6 inches of snow in Houston, which you could. It's not going to last real long. You know how that goes for the South. The snowman life expectancy for the Gulf Coast is not long. All right, here are your 6 to 10 day temps. Cold. 8 to 14, not quite as cold, but cold, except for Florida. Precip wise, yeah, a lot. Precipitation across the southeast mid-Atlantic above average, and especially Four Corners through the Rockies and Northern Plains. And then 8 to 14, which takes us into February 1st, even more areas with at least a slight risk of above average precipitation. We got a couple snowstorms coming, so yeah, it's going to get pretty heavy snow for DC through the big cities of the Northeast. Then the lake effect snow is going to be really heavy, and then our southern snow and ice storm. And it's really cold here in the Midwest. So that about does it for today. Of course, we'll keep you updated as we go tomorrow. I'm going to get ready for church. Have a great day. We'll see you tomorrow on the Weather Mic.